Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren, an diesem denkwürdigen Morgen, den wir alle doch etwas atemlos oder jedenfalls mit angehaltenem Atem verfolgen. An diesem Morgen ist manches anders. Hier hätte Sie jetzt der Ministerpräsident von Nordrhein-Westfalen, Armin Laschet, begrüßen sollen. Ich darf ihn hier vertreten, weil er aus einem unvorhergesehenen Anlass leider nicht bei uns sein kann. Es ist wirklich ein besonderer Morgen und ich begrüße Sie, wo immer Sie sind, in Nordrhein-Westfalen, in Deutschland oder auch in den USA. Und es freut mich, dass Sie der Einladung der Landesregierung und unserer Partner, der Atlantik-Brücke und des German Marshall Fund, gefolgt sind und heute Morgen bei uns sind. Der wichtigste Verbündete Europas in der Welt hat gewählt. Der Partner, dem gerade Deutschland unglaublich viel verdankt. Ich denke an unsere Demokratie und an den Wiederaufbau nach dem Krieg. Ich denke an die Rolle der USA als Impulsgeber in vielen Bereichen, in der Kultur, in der Wissenschaft, in der Technologie. Ich denke daran, wie wichtig die USA als Handelspartner und auch als Investor sind für Deutschland und auch für Nordrhein-Westfalen. Und ich denke an die USA als Leuchtturm der Freiheit. In den Worten von Ronald Reagan, "This is the last stand on earth. If you lose freedom here, there is no place to escape to." Eine Wahl in den USA ist darum auch für uns immer ein herausragendes Ereignis. Als wichtigste Wahl unseres Lebens haben beide Parteien in den USA diese Wahl bezeichnet. Das sagen sie zwar fast immer, aber ich glaube, wir alle haben das Gefühl, dass es diesmal wahr ist. Wir leben in unruhigen Zeiten. Auf beiden Seiten des Atlantiks erleben wir eine Polarisierung der Gesellschaft, die teilweise kaum mehr zu überbrücken zu sein scheint. Für manche ist der Begriff Kompromiss zum Schimpfwort geworden. Wir erleben weltweit eine Stärkung des Extremismus, zuletzt wieder mit den furchtbaren Anschlägen in Österreich und Frankreich. In vielen Demokratien sehen wir, dass der bisher tragende Grundkonsens Risse und Brüche bekommt. Wir sehen autoritäre Tendenzen. Es gibt starke internationale Akteure, die demokratische Grundwerte ablehnen. Und auch in Europa sehen wir in einzelnen Ländern ein bedenkliches Vorgehen gegen Gewaltenteilung, Pressefreiheit und Minderheitenrechte. Die regelbasierte Weltordnung wurde in den vergangenen Jahren immer häufiger in Frage gestellt und die Corona-Krise wirkt in dieser Situation wie ein Katalysator. Die Menschen erleben eine gesundheitliche, eine wirtschaftliche und eine soziale Krise und dadurch verschärfen sich Konflikte. In dieser Situation hat Amerika gewählt. The morning after. Der Morgen danach, so haben wir unsere Online-Konferenz überschrieben und wahrscheinlich hatten wir, als wir diesen Titel gewählt haben, die Hoffnung, dass das Ergebnis schon klar und eindeutig sein würde. Sie sehen alle, das ist nicht der Fall. In vielen Bundesstaaten werden die Stimmen noch ausgezählt. Die Wählerinnen und Wähler der Vereinigten Staaten haben gesprochen und in großer Zahl von ihrem demokratischen Recht Gebrauch gemacht. Der Respekt vor dem Wählerwillen gebietet es jetzt auch, das Ergebnis abzuwarten. Unabhängig vom Wahlergebnis bleiben die Herausforderungen. Politik hat die Aufgabe, Menschen zusammenzuführen, Kompromisse zu schließen, verantwortungsvolle Lösungen zu finden. Die Vereinigten Staaten blicken auf eine lange demokratische Tradition zurück. Sie waren darin für viele, auch für uns, immer ein Vorbild. Es gilt jetzt, sich auf diese Tradition zu besinnen und nicht durch eine Rhetorik die Polarisierung weiter voranzutreiben. Es geht innen- und außenpolitisch darum, Menschen zusammenzuführen und Partnerschaften zu stärken. Egal wer Präsident wird, sollten die USA und Europa gemeinsam die großen geopolitischen Herausforderungen angehen. Und wir wissen, das bleibt in jedem Falle eine Herausforderung. Sie werden heute im Rahmen der Konferenz auf einige dieser zahlreichen Herausforderungen eingehen. Neben der Corona-Krise geht es um die Debatte um die Verteidigungsausgaben, die internationale Klimapolitik, der Umgang mit dem Iran, das Verhältnis zu China und die Zukunft des internationalen Welthandels. Bei diesen Herausforderungen müssen wir eine Außenpolitik mit Strategie, Weitblick und Geschichtsbewusstsein verfolgen. Dazu gehört auch zu erkennen, dass das Verhältnis zwischen den USA und Deutschland nicht allein auf die Beziehungen zwischen Berlin und Washington beschränkt sind. In Nordrhein-Westfalen unterhalten wir enge Beziehungen zu den Bundesstaaten Pennsylvania, auch zu New Jersey. Und egal, wer in Washington die Administration führt, werden wir weiter an diesen subnationalen Partnerschaften arbeiten. Es ist mir ein Anliegen, das Potenzial dieser Beziehungen wirklich weiterzuentwickeln. Und der Ministerpräsident wird alles tun, das auch weiter voranzutreiben. In der Außenpolitik, das ist auch klar, und das hängt auch nicht davon ab, wer Präsident wird, brauchen wir einen stärkeren europäischen Blick und eine stärkere europäische Verantwortung. Denn die Aufgaben, die anstehen, gehen über die bilateralen Beziehungen zwischen Deutschland und den USA hinaus. Und auch wenn es schwierig wird, die USA und Europa müssen die großen Herausforderungen weiterhin gemeinsam angehen. Das geht aber nur, wenn Europa selbst weltpolitikfähig ist oder wird. Dazu muss auch Deutschland einen größeren Beitrag leisten und mehr Verantwortung übernehmen. Dazu muss Deutschland strategischer an internationale Herausforderungen herangehen. Und es kommt jetzt darauf an, dass wir uns für eine internationale Ordnung einsetzen, die auf Freiheit, auf offenen Märkten und auf verbindlichen Regeln für alle beruht. Engere, bessere Beziehungen zwischen unseren Ländern, Austausch, Verständnis, darum geht es auch bei der Konferenz heute. Und ich wünsche Ihnen allen dabei einen hoffentlich zuversichtlichen Blick nach vorne. Vielen Dank.
Nein, also die werden hier eingeblendet, okay. Die dort. Ob Sie dich sehen können, ja, tun Sie. Auf jeden Fall, ja.
Good morning to all of you. My name is Sudha David-Wilp, and on behalf of the German Marshall Fund and our partners, the Atlantik-Brücke and the State of North-Rhine Westphalia, I'd like to welcome you to our event on the morning after the US election. We're going to take you through a deep dive with the results that we have thus far and where things are going to go next over the next couple of hours. I will be your host at the beginning, and then I will pass on the mic to my colleague, David Deissner, at the Atlantik-Brücke, where he will continue the conversation in German and also leave time to take your questions for those of you that are logged on early this morning in Germany, or perhaps in the wee hours of the morning in the United States. So let's kick off with our first segment, which we are really pleased to have two former members of Congress with us, give us an insider look about what's going on in the US election right now. And here, I think they're about to log on. As soon as they log on, I will introduce them. But I guess I'm hearing from my colleagues that they are actually online already. So the two former members that we have with us are the Honorable Russ Carnahan and the Honorable Charlie Dent. Russ Carnahan is from the great state of Missouri, and Charlie Dent is from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, a very important state that everybody is watching. Both gentlemen served in the House of Representatives, Congressman Carnahan from 2005 to 2013, and Congressman Dent from 2005 to 2018. And both of them do have one thing in common. They were both chairs of the Congressional Study Group on Germany. So I guess I'll start with a very broad question. As I mentioned, it's still early in the morning Wednesday on the East Coast in the United States. So where do things stand from both of your vantage points? Why don't we go to Congressman Carnahan first?
Thank you, Sudha. It's great to be with you and great to be with my friend Charlie Dent. You know, this has been a very unusual election for so many reasons, from COVID to the economy to some of the bizarre election tactics. It's really been a toxic political environment here. And I think many people have been looking forward to turning the chapter in this part of American politics. I'm still optimistic about that. I'm a Democrat, supporter of Joe Biden. And I think, as many of you may have seen, just prior to coming on the call, Biden spoke briefly, said he was optimistic, believed they were on the right path to win, but that it was going to be another day, maybe more, before the additional votes could be counted. I'm anxious to hear my friend's assessment of Pennsylvania, because it is key in that conversation. But that's really a quick snapshot of, I think, where we are early this morning.
Congressman Dent, what do you think? Did you think it would be such a nail biter, or did you think it was going to be more clear cut at this point in the race?
It's interesting. I handicapped this race. I thought there was maybe a 10 to 20% chance that Donald Trump would win the election, kind of like he did last time, pulling an inside straight. And then I thought about a 40% chance that Joe Biden would win in a reasonably close election. And I had about another 30% chance that maybe Joe Biden would win very decisively. It looks like we're going to have a very close election right now. And right now, the state of play is that each candidate has won what we expected them, or what they won last time, more or less, so far, with some very important states still outstanding, like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, where the outcome is still unclear. In the state of in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I should point out that this is the first time we have actually used mail-in ballots in a significant way, or they're absentee ballots without an excuse. So in other words, you can just request one and it will be sent to you for any reason. And there were over 3 million absentee ballot requests in Pennsylvania, and about 2.5 million of them have been returned. And basically, the Democrats have more absentee ballots by a 3-to-1 margin. So it's about 1.6 million Democratic absentee ballots to about 550,000 Republican ballots, and the rest, a few 100,000 for independents and other small parties. So we're seeing a very this is unique to us. We've never had to do this, and as we sit here, those absentee ballots have really not been counted to the extent that many of us would have liked by this time. Now, we expect it will take a few days to count them all, so we're urging people to be patient. But the outcome is unclear because many of those absentee ballots have simply not been counted, and I suspect we're not going to get a good sense of where we are in those absentee ballots till sometime later in the day on Wednesday, U.S. time, Eastern Standard Time, not German time. So we hope to have some clarity maybe by Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. But I think this could drag into Thursday and Friday. So it's very unclear right now in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, which in all likelihood will end up deciding this election.
So yes, I guess patience is going to be the name of the game for all of us, even on this side of the Atlantic. What about the issues that voters were telling you about, like your former constituents in Missouri, Congressman Carnahan? What were the issues that were front and center for them as they cast their votes, whether on election day or even during early voting?
Well, clearly, the economy that has been impacted by COVID, the response to COVID, the healthcare implications, people concerned about pre-existing condition and other issues. And also, there's a growing concern about civil unrest and civil rights and civil justice. Those have been some of the very prominent issues in this campaign.
Actually, maybe we can stick with that point because you're from Missouri, and if I'm not mistaken, the Black Lives Matter movement started in your state in 2014. Did you ever think that that movement would become pretty much mainstream now? I mean, did you see that coming when you look back at 2014 and where we are right now?
I think it would have been hard to predict back then, but as we've seen over time, with just repeated incidents of injustice at the hands of police, there needs to be a space created. And that's one of the things that I think Joe Biden has really tried to do, is create a space where law enforcement that are professional and ethical and abide by the law can also have a conversation with people that want civil justice and civil rights to look at reforms that help keep people safe and have fair law enforcement. And that's so needed in this country. And as we've seen these repeated incidents around the country that continue to this day, that's going to be an issue, and it needs to be addressed.
Congressman Dent, what about the issues that you're hearing from people in Pennsylvania? And, tell us a little bit why Pennsylvania has been sort of the darling of this election. Did you ever think that Pennsylvania would sort of decide the vote this year?
Well, certainly Pennsylvania arguably decided the vote last time too. It was Pennsylvania that put Donald Trump over the top in 2016, and it looks like Pennsylvania could be the pivotal race again for either candidate. Just as Florida was a state that Donald Trump had to win, I always had the sense that Pennsylvania was a state that Joe Biden, had to win. Now, could Joe Biden win without Pennsylvania? Yes, but it's a very difficult path without it. With respect to the issues, I would say that certainly the pandemic and the response to it is a major issue for a lot of voters. The economy, healthcare, and I would also say the issue of law and order. And I do think that the issue of law and order has done some damage to the Democratic cause. I really do believe, while we all abhor any kind of police brutality or violence, at the same time, I think most Americans have a very favorable view of American law enforcement. That most interactions with law enforcement in the United States are quite positive. People call law enforcement, police, all the time to help them with a given problem, and usually there's oftentimes a favorable outcome or an amicable resolution to the issue. So I think that's what we're not talking about in these situations. And the fact that right now in the United States, in many of our major cities, downtown business districts are boarding up buildings in anticipation of potential violence or rioting or looting is very serious. And I think that has actually helped the president in some respects with much of the electorate that does not like that kind of instability. Although you could argue that the president's own rhetoric maybe contributes to some of this, to this mayhem. Nevertheless, this is a real challenge. So bottom line, the economy, the COVID response, healthcare, and I would say law and order are the issues that are driving a lot of people to the polls and their votes. But at the end of the day, though, this issue, I think this election is a lot less about those issues, and it's more a referendum on the president of the United States and his conduct in office.
And actually, because it looks like it's going to be a close decision either way, there's no landslide win on the part of any candidate. What does that mean for the ideology of Trumpism for the GOP, Congressman Dent? It's here. It's going to be here for a while. It's not like this is going to go away anytime soon for your party.
Well, I think if there's a close election, and it appears there is, that Trumpism, I do think, is not being rejected or repudiated, maybe to the extent that I would have liked. But it's unclear. I think we have to let the votes be counted. Let's see what happens. Let's see, how the Senate and House play out. I do think that, whichever party controls the Senate, the one prediction I have been making, by the way, is that whichever party wins the presidency will likely control the Senate. I might be wrong about that. I said the same thing in 16. I was correct. And we'll see if it's true in 2020. And there was some expectation that the Democrats would pick up, anywhere from 5 to 15 seats in the House. I'm not so sure they're going to pick up that many seats. I see they already lost a couple seats. They're going to control the House. Don't misunderstand me. And so I think that they're not going to meet their expectations, at least of what the media and the polls had suggested. So long story short, that I think that Trumpism is not going to go away that quickly. Now, if he loses, which is very possible at this moment, I still think that Biden has a real path to victory here, but it's unclear. But at the end of the day, this is not the repudiation I think that many had hoped for of Trumpism as a governing philosophy.
Congressman Carnahan, let's talk a little bit about the relationship between the White House and Congress. Congressman Dent thinks that there'll be more of this down ballot phenomenon, and the White House will also have control, or the party that's in the White House will have control of the Senate. If the opposite's true, perhaps if the Democrats do manage to take the majority in the Senate, but President Trump is reelected, what sort of dynamic do you expect if the Congress is in the hands of the Democrats, but President Trump does get reelected?
Well, anytime there's a opposite control between the White House and the Congress, there's a substantial check on what the president can do, but also a check on what the Congress can do. So they have to, is sort of a forced accommodation between the two, and really forces them to find ways they can work together. Otherwise, nothing gets done. We've had some of that in the current divided Congress, but really whoever's in the White House has to make a decision, whether it's, all out war with Congress, or are they going to try to find some things they're going to have principled disagreements on, but also try to find some common ground where they can actually get things done. So it creates major friction and roadblocks, but it also forces some working together to find common ground. But it certainly does handicap a president to perhaps pursue their full agenda if they don't have a Congress that can back them up.
And maybe I'll ask you the same question about your party, but flip it in the sense that if Vice President Biden and Senator Kamala Harris do lose, what do you think the Democrats are going to ask themselves? Will they say that maybe we should have actually gone for a candidate more to the left? Because there's no denying that both these two politicians are quite middle of the road.
I think Russ froze up.
Oh, okay.
I think
The
he froze up.
Joys of Zoom.
Boy,
I thought that question was for Charlie.
No, it's actually for you.
Oh,
If Biden does lose, do you think the Democrats will look back and say, actually, maybe we should have gone with a candidate more to the left, like Senator Warren or Senator Sanders?
Some may say that, but my personal belief is that Joe Biden was the right candidate for the times we're in. He has had quite a progressive record, as has Senator Harris. And again, I think they're the right balance of being progressive and common sense in their agendas. And it was the best way to build the strongest coalition right now. But when you lose, people second guess everything. But we'll cross that bridge if we come to it. But I think they were the right candidates for the times we're in.
And Congressman Dent, you've been known for working across the aisle while you were in Congress, and also known as sort of a moderate Republican. I don't know if many of those still exist, but what do you think about where we are in America and polarization? I mean, so far the results show that our country is still quite evenly divided into two camps.
Yeah, our country is polarized, and I would use the term tribalized. And we are, if you look at the voting patterns in the United States, at least in these national elections, they have a parliamentary flavor to them. That where the party matters more than the individual candidate. And it's very hard for an individual candidate to stand out or run ahead of his or her party. That is what has changed so much. We are, like I said, we're very tribalized, and it is that simple. Red team, blue team. When I first, I guess it was my third election for the U.S. House in 2008. I won my congressional district by 18 points, while Barack Obama was winning it by 13. It's much harder to do that today than it was then. Like I said, candidates I think mattered more then. Today, it's party labels that matter, and I am deeply concerned about this extreme polarization because if I had my druthers, I would like to see Joe Biden win the presidency and the Republicans maintain a narrow majority in the Senate and the House will remain Democrat. If that were to happen, that would actually force some level of bipartisan cooperation. Neither side would feel like they had a real mandate. And it might force them to at least try to do some things on an incremental basis to address some problems. I've always feared that if the Democrats ran the tables, took everything, House, Senate, and presidency, they might misread that mandate rather than just maybe a repudiation of Donald Trump, which is what I thought it would have been. May not be the case, but would have been, and maybe have taken that as a mandate to impose some of their more progressive ideas that I don't think are being widely embraced. So I think Joe Biden's going to have a challenge should he become the president. Does he want to unify the American people or the Democratic Party? It will be hard to do both. And so I think he's going to have a tough balancing act should he win. And, like I said, there's a decent shot that he will be the president in a close race. And like I said, Trump could pull it out too. I don't want to make a prediction right now because it's still a very fluid situation. But it's very easy to see how Biden could win in a close race right now.
Congressman Carnahan, what do you think? Would you go out on a limb and make a prediction at this point, or is it way too early?
I'm very optimistic that these remaining states are going to break the way of the Biden-Harris ticket, and that they're going to win. It's not going to be a large margin, but the way it looks in several of these remaining states is that the votes that haven't been counted yet look like they would be favorable to Joe Biden, and it looks like they can pull this out. So I'm optimistic, but we have to get through this unusual voting process, and hopefully we'll know by tomorrow or the next day where this stands, and we'll have a decision.
Congressman Carnahan, if Joe Biden does lose, we pretty much know that he will probably pull away with the popular vote, just as Hillary Clinton did in 2016. Do you think there will be a lot of pressure from your side of the aisle to reform the Electoral College?
There already is. There's some, I think, major concerns with it. We've had so many recent races where the winner of the popular vote has not won the election because of the Electoral College process. And I think it really needs to be reviewed and evaluated to see if that's practical going forward when we've had so many instances that it's really creates a lot of questions as to whether it's really reflecting the will of the American people.
Congressman Dent, what's your feeling on the Electoral College?
Yeah, I've always supported the Electoral College, believe it or not. I kind of like, I've heard a lot of people in recent weeks and months complain about the Senate and the Electoral College and saying, oh, it's terrible that these small states have this disproportionate influence on the nation. And I've always said, well, the United States Senate is the price we paid to have a republic. I believe it was Benjamin Franklin who came up with the compromise, because a lot of these small states back in 18th century, did not want to be, were afraid to become part of this United States of America, because they were afraid that states like mine at the time, Pennsylvania and Virginia and Massachusetts and New York, would dominate this republic, if we just had a simple House of Representatives based on population, and it was a proportional representation. And so the idea was to create a body, the Senate, where each state had an equal voice. That was the price we paid for a republic, that Montana has the same number of seats as California in the Senate. And we have to deal with it. Now, the Electoral College, the reason I kind of like the Electoral College is because if we have a close election, as we may have this time, and we certainly had in 2000, at least we can confine a problem to a given state. In that case, it was Florida, where President Bush, won by a few hundred votes. But the popular vote nationally was also very close. And we could have taken a national, that problem in Florida could have become a national nightmare very quickly. And I would argue we would still be counting the votes from the 2000 election if we didn't, but for the Electoral College. It's not something that we would have created in this day and age, but I would be very reluctant to amend the Constitution to abolish it. Just as I would be very reluctant to, people are talking about taking Washington, D.C., which was never intended to be a state, and making it a state. And I said, well, there's a solution. If you want to prevent the disenfranchisement of the people of Washington, D.C., well, then simply collapse the federal district and put it back in the state of Maryland from which it came, just as the other part of the federal district was in Virginia, which Virginia reclaimed at some point. Complicated history there. But I mean, that's a way to deal with it and let them have a vote. And I think, so those kinds of proposals, I'm very hesitant, though, to, mess with the Constitution, although DC statehood would not require a constitutional change.
Okay, I'm going to actually let you answer the last question, Congressman Dent, simply because, your state may actually be the national nightmare this time around. So tell us a little bit about what we should be looking for in the next couple of days when it comes to Pennsylvania. Which voting groups should we looking at? Which counties? And, what should we expect? Yeah,
what we should expect. Look, if you look at this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia and what we call the 4 collar counties, the 4 suburban counties around Philadelphia, represent probably a little over a third of the entire vote of the state. Okay. Then you go into the next ring, just north of there, which would be my area, Northampton and Lehigh counties, Berks County, and then Lancaster County, which I often refer to as the Pennsylvania German, or more colloquially, the Pennsylvania Dutch Belt. That area is also significant and trending. And so basically the southeastern part of the state looks more like a northeastern state. You get west of the Susquehanna River, west of Harrisburg, and out towards Pittsburgh. Pennsylvania takes on more of a Midwestern flair, and arguably in the southwestern corner of the state, more like West Virginia. What I would expect to see, that these absentee votes, these mail-in votes are going to be counted. I think they're in Philadelphia. They'll release some tonight, probably in about now, maybe. It's 2 a.m. here. And then they'll stop counting, and they're going to start again tomorrow morning. But some of the larger counties in Pennsylvania, we still have a very significant number of votes that have not been counted. And I was just sent a text while we were on this call, and they're just saying that there could be a couple million ballots still out statewide in Pennsylvania, according to CNN, where I'm a political contributor. So there could be a couple million ballots still out. As we sit here, as we speak, I believe Donald Trump has a lead. And we expected this, that Donald Trump would be doing well on election night with the in-person vote. And right now he's up by about 600,000 or 700,000 votes. And we are expecting, so it could be what some have called a red mirage. Well, it's really not a mirage. These are real votes that he's won, but you could see a blue shift. That is, as these absentee ballots come in, and we expect that they're going to come in probably at a rate of at least 3-1 for Biden, that lead could shift. Now, I think right now the president just tweeted something out not long ago, maybe suggesting that, things are fixed or rigged, which is very unsettling because, these votes that we're waiting on, just have to be counted. There's nothing improper about them. We just have to count them, and it's going to take time. And I think it could take I'm not expecting an outcome sooner than Thursday, although I hope I'm wrong. I hope we have an outcome Wednesday evening, but maybe Thursday, and it could stretch into Friday. And who knows? There could be some machines that are broken in some counties, and things can go wrong. And Pennsylvania has never done this before on this scale with mail-in voting. They changed the law. The legislature changed the law prior to the pandemic to allow for this mail-in voting, not anticipating a pandemic. So bottom line is they're going to keep counting. I think you'll see what you see now with Donald Trump ahead, that margin is going to shrink, and possibly where Biden will surpass. I'm not saying he will. I kind of think he will right now, but who knows? I mean, we just don't know. And at a time like this, we have to urge patience and you know what? And let the votes be counted and let the chips fall where they may.
Okay, well, we'll end there with that, patience, and let the chips fall where they may. Good luck to all of you, and thank you so much for staying up so late to talk to us. And we look forward to carrying on the conversation with you in the near future. Thank you, Congressman Dent. Thank you, Congressman Carnahan.
Thanks.
Get some sleep.
Thank you, Sudha.